Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me again today. Um, this is a series where um, I ask you guys to join me, support me, and witness with me um, the process of turning my consciousness back to the divine, um, the process of realigning, of surrendering, of getting out of my own way, of shifting my focus from the ego back to the self, and of returning to my natural state of being. Uh, I don't want to go into too much detail because I want to keep the video short, but there are other videos, day one and day two in this series, that explain what it is that's going on. So essentially, the main problem is that I am not experiencing my natural state of peace, love, and joy. That is the state that we're all born into, and it is our birthright. It is the kingdom of heaven that is accessible to us on the inside at all times. And when when you are able to attain stillness, when you are able to get out of your mind, when you are able to get out of your pain, this is what you feel. You do not have to attain peace, love, and joy. The thing to strive for is the act of dropping pain, of dropping attachments, of dropping the thought stream, of reclaiming your attention from being held captive by the ego and the mind. That's the only thing that needs to be done. Finding happiness, that doesn't need to occur. Finding peace or finding love doesn't need to occur. When those things, when you shift away from the ramblings of your mind, you'll realize that peace, love, and joy are there all the time. And it took me a long, long time to get there, but I know this, and I know this for sure, for sure, for sure. Um, I entered a new phase in my life, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, going on 8 months ago. Um, New home, new job, new project, new purpose, new everything. And for the first 1 to 3 months, I was in trust, alignment, and surrender, but struggling financially. It wasn't like abundant, but it was decent. It was enough. But I had no fear, and I did not listen to my ego's ramblings. And then month 4, 5, I was in absolute bliss. I held on to the teaching that if you seek first the kingdom of heaven, everything will be else would be added onto you. And I understood that the kingdom of heaven was a state of consciousness that we can attain. So I started every single day by first listening to a song that would make me happy, thinking happy thoughts, allowing just sort of joy to well up so that it can point me to where the heart space was. And then I would go and dwell in the heart space and allow that level of consciousness to pervade my being and my life experience, like a field of peace, which when you dwell in it feels like bliss. And this is how I started my day every day for month 4 and 5. And sometimes that took 15 minutes to get there. And sometimes it took 2 or 3 hours to get there, but I did it every single day. And during those months, I was rewarded by extreme levels of abundance. I made, because one of my jobs is as a consultant, and a couple of projects came my way, and they paid really, really well. They were rushed projects, so they paid, a higher rate. And I was like, wow, this is the most money I've ever made, per day ever in my life. And it was easy, it was smooth, it was unstressed. And one or two other projects, 2 or 3 other projects that I had, were going extremely quickly, extremely gracefully, just so easy, with no stress, no effort, nothing. I was doing nothing. The effort that I was doing was getting into the kingdom of heaven every single day. And then in month 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, in month 6, which is New Year's, first week in January, I just started to write. I have been wanting to write a book for about 3 years now, and I just never got the inspiration or the time or the whatever, whole bunch of things that were stopping it. And then I started writing, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and I wrote an entire book in 3 weeks. Absolute inspiration. Every writer's dream is to hit that spot. Every artist or creative person's dream is to be in that level of flow. And I have prayed for that in some form or another my entire life, and I was incredibly happy. I did nothing. I was blessed with the ability. I didn't have any work for a month, and I was at home, and I stayed up all night every night writing for 10 or 12 hours, and then I would sleep, throughout the day, and just kind of like have leisurely hobby things, walk through the garden, go visit people, just whatever, go to a cafe, have some coffee. It was just such a lovely life. And again, the couple of other projects that were happening in and around my life, in my family, in my home, and in some groups that I was volunteering with, those went incredibly well, and quickly and smoothly, and things were being done for me, and I had no effort and no struggle. I mean, I've worked with nonprofits my entire life, and I know what it's like to work with the board of directors, work with the volunteers, get the grants, fill out the grant applications. It's just nightmarish kind of work, and this wasn't happening. These projects were just flourishing. And then we come to month 7, and now we're like halfway through month 8, and I got into my head. So the consultancy work that I was doing slowed down, so I got worried. And then this other project that I was involved in, I started to say, well, let me take it had paused all of a sudden, and the momentum had paused. And I said, let me take leadership over it. So I started doership. Do. The previous 5, 6, 7 months, those were all allow, observe, step aside and marvel at the speed of the divine. But now I was like, oh, I can do this. I can solve this. I can fix this. I can make this happen. I can schedule this. And it became stressful. So one job, I started to worry about the fact that I wasn't getting enough consultancy projects out of it. The other job, I started to put effort and worry and planning and brain work into something that very clearly was just the divine's work. And then I had this book, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so I want to bring the book, because I've been on YouTube for 2 years now. I've made a lot of friends. I've gotten a nice number of subscribers. People write me after every video and comment, and I absolutely have fallen in love with my public. I know several of my viewers, my regular viewers. I know their names, I know their situations, I know what they resonate with, I know the ones who enjoy the being meditations. I know the ones who are trying to understand the surrender concept. I know the ones who are trying to understand being the observer consciousness. Together with quite a large group, we went through the pain bodies using Eckhart Tolle's teachings from the Power of Now, and I absolutely adore that relationship. But in the last few months, I have been very busy holding on 2 to 3 jobs and projects, and I just didn't have the time, and the YouTube channel went dormant. Which means that when I post a video, the algorithm just doesn't want to share it. It's like, are you a robot? Do you exist? What are you doing? You're inconsistent. Nobody wants to see your videos. So when the book came to me, now the book came insight, just pure 100% dropped from heaven book. No effort whatsoever. No writer in the history of mankind has put as little effort into writing as brilliant a book as occurred to me a couple months ago. And I was very grateful, and I was amazed at how that worked. And yet, I allow the mind, the ego, the pain patterns, the trauma patterns, the residual fear to rise up. And I said, oh, I must take this brilliant work to my fans, to my subscribers, to my viewers, to my friends, to the communities, because I post these videos in little communities. I started off teaching live meditation in a small, beautiful community, and I still share my teachings there. And when the teaching came, the first thing I did, well intentioned, is I said, hey, I need to share this with people. So I go back on YouTube, and immediately YouTube isn't, my videos are getting 20 views, 50 views. One video, I don't even think I reached 100 yet. I think one video got 75. And what do? I get frustrated. So now all of these projects that were going incredibly well when I was seeking first the kingdom of heaven, when I was first seeking the layer of consciousness that steps out of the way and allows divine grace, everything I was doing three or four projects incredibly easily. And now here I am, solidly dropped into the mind, into the position of doership, and triggered by fear, insecurity, and patterns. And these three little projects that I have to do, failing at all of them. No success here, no grace there, no money here, no viewers there, no support from the management team in one of the projects. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening? And what I realized is that um, I left. Well, there's many ways of saying it. I left the kingdom of heaven. That's one thing. I no longer, for the last 6 weeks, I didn't get up and start my day seeking the heart space or the kingdom of heaven. Or Christ consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, communion with the self, alignment with the higher self, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't start my day doing that, and it spiraled, and I ended up in worry, and then I ended up in frustration, and then I ended up in anger. This is not where I expected this video to go, but what it works out to be, what I'm trying to say, is that the problem that I have, the canary in the coal mine that let me know that something was wrong and I needed to urgently take action or shift, allow a shift, not take action, is when I realized that my divine inheritance as one of the creations of the great creator, as a point of consciousness in this great play. It is my divine inheritance to have access to a state of consciousness, peace, love, and joy. And I had not allowed that state in several weeks. And I said, oh my goodness. Teaching number one, what the whole book is about, is do not allow that to happen. Seek first that state. And in seeking that state, you will understand every single thing that is preventing you from getting to that state. You will see the patterns in your ego. You will see the fear. You will see the resentment. You will see the things that you're holding on to, the forms of identification, or the things that are important to your mind, the things that are occupying your thought stream. When you ask yourself, what is it that is preventing me from experiencing peace, love, and joy right now? So I started this series because I said, okay, one of the things, well, the thing that it amounts to is that my consciousness, my awareness, my attention, um, if you will, my spotlight was pointing at the voice inside of me. If you've ever seen Cloud Atlas, the guy who hovers over Tom Hanks's character's shoulder and just whispers fear, hate, separation, and judgment into his ears 24/7, that is, unfortunately, in simplified terms, that is what the ego does. So I had turned my attention to that guy and I started listening to what that guy had to say. And I knew that I had to stop that. Because when you don't listen to that, you hear, you hear, you hear left foot, right foot. You hear little tiny impulses, sure, solid sound, but gently whispered instructions as to what to do. Do this, do that. Don't trust this person. Don't do. Go over there. Don't go over there. Come, go, wait. The instructions are there. They are there, but the divine does not scream. Your ego screams, and if you choose to put your awareness on the ego, you won't hear the divine anymore. And I have spent years and years and years understanding and dedicating myself to this concept. And I was very, very surprised at the fact that it's what I call selling your peace. What do you sell your peace for? If you can abide in a state of peace until your mind seduces you with a juicy thought, then that thought, that topic, is the price for which you sell your peace. And I thought that I really didn't have anything, that my focus is the divine, my focus is inner peace. But no, there's always, this is a cycle, an unraveling upward spiral of growth, but it reveals to you every step of the way more and more finer and finer details of what is taking up your consciousness. What is the juicy thought that can get you to stop focusing on divinity, on your divinity, and instead start focusing on fear? So for me, that is the ever present fear of not having enough, even though I have always been taken care of and I have always had enough. And there have been points in my life where I have been ridiculously abundant, but I grew up incredibly poor. So I still have that root sort of fear of, "Oh, what if I don't have enough?" And then, so that's one juicy thought that is still there. You dangle financial insecurity in front of my eyes, and I go, "Ooh, let's think about that for a while." And forget that I'm divine, forget that I'm taken care of, forget that there's an inner spirit guiding me, forget all of that. Um, and the other thing, it's interesting. Sorry that this video is so long. I keep trying to make short videos. Okay, so the other thing, I will get to the prayer in a second. Give me 2 more minutes, and then we'll do a prayer together. Okay, because I have a point. I do have a point. So the other thing is, two things happened, and I believe that they both happened to teach me something. So one is, I was the victim of a crime. I was robbed, and that resulted in some financial expenses. Um, and the other thing is that a team of people that I was working on a project with um, took advantage of my generosity, because I was essentially volunteering, not volunteering. I mean, I was getting paid, but I was getting paid a stipend. I was not being hired as a professional. I was not being paid as a consultant or anything. I was just like, I'm gonna help you guys out. You guys give me a little tiny stipend. And that generosity was taken care of, and then taken advantage of. And then in the end, um, they ended up turning and saying and accusing me of something and accusing my husband of something that made no sense. It wasn't even like a real thing. It was just like a ridiculously childish, dumbass thing. But it was interesting to observe that that's when you get robbed, you get the historical pain body of you as a person, as a people, your country, where your neighborhood, whatever. The general visceral fear of survival, that sense of justice, injustice, whatever, all that gets triggered. But it didn't really get triggered in me. I was like, okay, maybe I have a little bit of a trauma response in terms of be a little vigilant, walk up a little bit better, like whatever. But I think those two things happened as a way to give me contrast so I could see very clearly what will get me. So the injustice and vulnerability of being robbed didn't really phase me, like maybe like a little bit. And but on the other hand, having my kindness being taken advantage of, that is something that's happened for me to me for decades. Granted, I put myself in that position by undervaluing myself, but that is that is something that still triggers me like that. And someone lying about me doesn't super trigger me, but someone lying about my husband is the nicest, kindest, gentlest, meekest, lovingest, trustingest person you'll ever meet. And I go all mama bear protective over him. And when I saw someone who he considers to be a friend throw him under the bus and gaslight him and try to make him feel bad about the very kindness that he was offering, I something in my brain just went off. And what this resulted in is that since this happened, which was 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago, 3.5, 4 days ago, 90% of my consciousness, 90% of my awareness, of the time, my awareness is placed on this injustice, this apparent injustice, because it's a complicated issue and all that kind of stuff. But um, I have very, very, very willingly surrendered my consciousness, my awareness to, yeah, let's think about this. Let's think about how pissed off I am. Let's think about that son of a bitch. And I am so happy. Not happy, but I'm so willing, unconsciously, I'm so willing to sell and trade my peace for the juicy thought of how unfair this is and how could he and that bastard and he has no, I can't believe, oh my goodness. That pain body, if you've followed the pain body series, I'll link a Power of Now pain body series to the end of this video so you can get into it. It's an absolutely brilliant series. If you've read Eckhart Tolle, or just basic psychology, trauma response, trauma patterns, core beliefs, root thought patterns, whatever you want to call it, that core energetic scar that lays dormant inside of me is so strong and so powerful still, that I am willing to surrender my peace. So the inherent state of peace, love, and joy that I usually experience, I surrendered it in order to feel pissed off and wronged. And also, um, the thoughts that you put your attention on, it's sort of like your ears. Like, what do you choose to listen to? What are you listening to, right? Um, so right now, I could listen to the sound of those birds, or I could listen to the distant sound of a truck, or I can listen to the sound of the air conditioning unit. I can choose where I want to put it, but the truth is, even though you kind of sort of hear everything all at once, you don't really. I can only truly put my ears on one of those things at a time. If I listen to the AC in the other room, oh, I don't hear the birds anymore, you know? But if I listen to the birds, oh, I don't hear the trucks anymore, you know? So, in the same way, the divine, your inner self, your inner spirit, your inner guide, your inner guru, um, God, love, the thing that takes care of you, the thing that guides you, the thing that has given you every beautiful, unbelievably magical thing that has ever happened before, um, is trying to guide you, trying to give you ideas, inspirations, instincts, intuition, and warnings. There are impulses every single second of the day. And instead of listening to those impulses, what am I doing? What am I doing? I am turning my ears towards the rambling rants of in my mind. I could go on forever. I really do talk about this in the book. The book will be launched in a few weeks if you're interested in finding out and getting updates, as well as workshops and classes and stuff that I do. If you want to know more about that, there is a link to a newsletter in the description. You can sign up for that, and I'll let you know when those things happen. But for now, because this video is really long, I just want to do a simple little prayer. And I want to say that what ultimately ended up happening is my unwillingness to forgive, to let go, is costing me peace and is costing me the ability to hear divine guidance. And I indulged in that for 4 days. And now, and again, as a result of previous prayers, my consciousness is making me aware of this and giving me the grace to know this and the grace to have the will to surrender it. So I'm going to say a little tiny prayer of forgiveness here because I don't want this to be too long. But the forgiveness is not for them, the forgiveness is obviously for me. Creator, protector, loving guide, thank you. Thank you for showing me what I need to do. Thank you for showing me the gap that I have created between myself and your loving embrace. And thank you for reaching across the divide to pull me back home into your arms. I acknowledge that I carry pain that is very seductive to my consciousness. And I lay that at your feet. And I ask you to take it away from me. And anytime you see me getting lost in that, please pull me back home. I forgive myself for being this way. These are protective patterns that I very understandably evolved. I drop any self-judgment or criticism. I lay that at your feet. And I forgive wrongs and perceived wrongs, accidental wrongs and malicious wrongs. It doesn't matter. I have been living my life in surrender to the self, seeing the self everywhere. And if this is a situation that presented itself, it's because the self wanted me to learn something. Thank you for allowing this experience in a gentle way that ultimately I was able to survive. Thank you for showing me, for using these people to show me what I needed to see. I forgive them for their role. I accept fully what they have done, what I have done, and what this present moment holds. I do not resist anything in this present moment because nothing is worth thinking about more than the sound of your voice. And finally, I forgive you. Whatever notions I have allowed myself to indulge in about injustice or not being protected or how could this have happened or anything like that, I know better than that. And those thoughts come from moments of weakness where I value my pain more than my strength. I forgive the concept of the divine setting me up or not being there for me. And I forgive myself for having such nonsense notions. In the end, I forgive every single thing and every single one. And I fully accept this moment, this day, the here and now. And I refuse to analyze, criticize, defend, measure, or compare anything. This moment is perfect. And I can already feel the clearing of my consciousness, the clearing of my thoughts, the return of the bliss, the return of the happiness. I thank you for that generosity. I thank you. Please, I grant you my will. Whenever I get lost in that again, reach out and pull me back home. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.